Juggernaut has an overall win rate of 46%, but somehow YATORO has a whooping 87% win rate on Juggernaut in 23 games, which is absurd considering the fact that this hero is considered as one of the worst carries in this patch, especially with the nerfs on his shard. So let's see how YATORO is able to do that. Starting with his early item build, YATORO always has the same item build in every game, which is a Quelling Blade, a set of Tangos, one branch, and a Circlet. In case he loses gold in the picking phase, he buys Slippers instead of the Circlet. This build is balanced for both types of lanes, where there will be spell usage as well as right-click harass. He can upgrade the stick into a wand if required, and the Circlet into a Wraith Band, both of which help with spell plus right-click harass. The stick upgrade allows him to consistently being able to use his spells, which deal damage and also heal him, and the Wraith Band upgrade allows him to trade better because of the stats and the armor. What I've noticed from his games is that he always has a really good Battlefury timing, usually between 10 to 12 minutes into the game. This can only be possible if he wins his lane convincingly. Jugger has been known to be a strong laner due to his high magical damage from his Blade Fury and also has the ability to sustain himself with his healing ward. Blade Fury works really well if it's paired with slows or stuns. Talking about slows, there was an addition of an item in 7.33 which sounds familiar, Blood Grenade. This item is bought in every game in the early game, and if combined with the Blade Fury, it can lead to a lot of kills. If you pair Juggernaut with a hero that slows like CM or Lich and put a Blood Grenade on top of that, there isn't a hero that can safely lane Juggernaut. Not only that, in the current meta, offlaners are rushing Vanguard, but guess what? Jugger does not care about Vanguard as most of his damage in the early game is magical. Kills are more rewarding in terms of gold in this patch as well. So to sum it up, Juggernaut is set up to win most of his lanes in this patch mainly due to the addition of Blood Grenade, and since he is most likely to win his lanes, he will mostly have a good Battlefury timing. YATORO always prioritizes fighting for bounty runes. Since he has a high damage spell with support from his teammates in the form of stuns or slows, it is fairly easy to secure first blood on this hero. If he gets the first blood, he usually calls in for Wraith Band components from his courier. In the laning phase, his laning approach is aggressive and defensive according to the scenario. If his support is a hero like CM or Lich that has a slow and high damage nuke, and he's playing against a melee offlaner, he will usually have an aggressive approach, meaning that he will try to punish the melee offlaner as often as he can with his Blade Fury combined with the spell of his +1. In this case, he doesn't prioritize buying boots as he doesn't require movement speed to reach the enemy heroes thanks to the slows and the enemy heroes being melee. In these types of lanes, he usually ends up hard stomping, and in that case, he rushes treads instead of buying cornucopia so he can pressure the enemy more with the additional movement speed and consistently denying creeps. If he is in a matchup where the enemy heroes aren't reachable, meaning that they are either ranged heroes or are very mobile, and his +1 can't do anything about that, he generally has a defensive approach and only tries to go on them if they make a mistake. In scenarios like this, he goes for boots of speed first as it helps to reach the enemy and make them uncomfortable. In these types of lanes, he plays for survivability, so he tends to use his healing ward quite often, and not only that, he prefers to rush cornucopia right after brown boots so he can sustain himself better with the extra regen. After he has at least 3 levels in his Blade Fury and at least a glove or completed treads, he tends to push in the lane rather than holding it, which allows him to farm the side camps every minute. This in return lets him have insane amounts of farm. He averages around 5k net worth at 10 minutes in every game, even in the games where he doesn't have that many kills in the laning phase. This is only possible due to the combination of his laning mechanics and the ability to push in the wave and consistently farm the side camps in the lane. In every game, he prefers treads over phase boots. In 7.33, treads got a small buff for melee heroes, allowing them to have an additional 10 movement speed, which Jug benefits from greatly. Not only that, due to the nerfs on his shard, he no longer can play like the shard magical Juggernaut, and instead has to play like a hyper carry. So an item like treads, which gives you attack speed and sustain, is more preferable over the phase boots that only gives you some armor and damage, which isn't what Juggernaut requires as a hyper carry. Due to the nerfs on the shard, Battlefury is better than Maelstrom. Maelstrom worked really well with his shard, but now it's significantly worse, so Battlefury is a better option as a hyper carry. Every video takes a lot of effort, and I want to keep helping you guys by making quality content. If you are enjoying the video, please make sure to like the video as it helps with the YouTube algorithm, and also subscribe. Now back to the guide. Juggernaut has a fighting kit. He has a high damage spell and ways to heal up not only himself but his entire team, so his spells are very useful in fights. Yatoro tends to join skirmishes early on if he sees an opportunity. In most cases, he TPs in to save his cores with his healing ward to make their game better. If he gets a chance to use his ultimate on someone to secure a kill, that's just a bonus. The notable point here is that whenever he sees a chance to use healing ward on his teammate, he tends to do that and also pressures towers with it. After getting Battlefury, Yatoro has two types of farming patterns. If he manages to destroy the enemy offlane tower, he tends to farm aggressively towards the enemy triangle and ancient areas. This allows him to steal farm away from the enemy because it's their side of the map, which in return increases his net worth while decreasing the enemies. Since Juggernaut has a way to save himself fairly easily with his spin plus TP, he can aggressively farm in dangerous areas given that the enemy doesn't have ways to stop him and his spin. His farming pattern is quite simple. He pushes in the wave, farms the new ancient camp of the enemy team, pushes in another wave, and then, if he feels safe enough to farm the enemy triangle, he farms that. If not, he goes back to his own jungle. If he doesn't manage to destroy the enemy offlane tower, once he has his Battlefury, he tends to farm in his own triangle. This does not steal the farm away from the enemy as it is your side of the map. His farming pattern is basically he farms his own triangle, then he usually farms a second ancient camp, followed by pushing in the wave. He does this every minute and gains around 800 gold, if you look at it here. After Treads and Battlefury, Yatoro chooses between these three items: Diffusal, Manta, or Sanjan Yasha. He only goes for Diffusal right after Battlefury over the others if he's against a Medusa. He opts for Manta if he does not require any form of status resistance, or if he needs something to dispel against silences or roots, etc. He goes for Sane and Yasha against things his Blade Fury can't help with. Stuff like Magnus RP, Doom, Rupture, and Roar goes through Blade Fury and is neglected by status resistance. In short, if you don't need a Dispel and require status resistance, buy Sanjan Yasha. If you need Dispels, buy Manta Style. If you're against the Medusa, buy Diffusal. However, after Diffusal, you should always go Manta or SNY as well. For his skill build, Yatoro always maxes his Blade Fury first, followed by his Healing Ward and then Blade Dance. Healing Ward is more valuable than Blade Dance, as the damage on Blade Dance does not scale, only the chance of its procs. Juggernaut having a good base attack time generally procs more often than not anyway. Healing Ward allows you to breach towers, take longer fights, take Roshan, etc., so it has more value. In terms of his talents, Yatoro always goes for all the right talents, plus 5 stats over the radius because he doesn't go for the short build, so the radius is useless. As a hard carry, the stats are generally better. The Healing Ward cooldown allows him to use it more often, and the Blade Fury talent doesn't benefit him much as he's mostly going to be man fighting with his build. Similarly, Blade Fury DPS isn't required as all of his damage will be from right clicks, so going for the lifesteal makes more sense as he will also proc his E during the spin. It's actually pretty good. Lastly, he goes for the +1 Omni Slash talent because he's building for right clicks, so it's just more damage. One of the cool things that Jug can do is that he can solo the Tormentor with his Healing Ward, which is pretty useful as it doesn't require your teammates to walk all the way to assist you. He can just solo the Tormentor and increase his team's net worth, whilst also giving his supports a shard to work with. Yatoro has two ways of fighting on Juggernaut. If his team is owning, he tends to join more fights than not. He plays more around his team and farms aggressively on the enemy side, which in return keeps his enemy from having any farm, basically starving them. This increases his team's lead and eventually they just snowball off of that. If the game is even or if he's playing from behind, he tends to farm as safely as possible until he gets his item timing. He only joins fights if it's something he can get something out of, in form of a kill by using his Omni Slash or by saving his teammates with his Healing Ward. Other than that, he utilizes the space made by his teammates and keeps up his farm. One notable thing is that he never mindlessly runs around for fights. He always keeps up with his farm even when he's pressuring the enemy continuously. He still has high amounts of last hits. The third big item Yatoro usually goes for is either Butterfly or Nullifier. Yules and stuff like Ghost Scepter is really good against Juggernaut due to the fact that it makes his ult do nothing. Depending upon the game, if the enemy doesn't have any Yules or Ghost Scepters or auras like Crimson, he defaults to Butterfly. Why is Butterfly good on Juggernaut? Butterfly amplifies the damage output from Jug's Blade Dance by a shit ton. Basically, the more attack speed Jug has, the more he will proc. By this logic, he should just buy a Moonshard as it gives more attack speed. Butterfly gives him evasion and armor as well as some damage, which are all useful when it comes to right clicking as a Juggernaut. You need to be as tanky as you can. It helps with chipping down building as well. Overall, an S tier item for Juggernaut. You can also buy Nullifier after Butterfly in case it's required. After that, Yatoro usually itemizes to make sure he gets to do damage. In some games, he goes for BKB, some games he goes for Ags. In most of his matches, the game is over by the time he gets his third or fourth item. Juggernaut does not have a way to lock down enemies, meaning that he has to be very careful with the way he uses his Omni Slash. It has a big cooldown and can be avoided very easily by mobile heroes. Yatoro usually right clicks whatever he sees that is unable to move or escape. He tends to use Omni Slash on targets that can't escape it. That is the highest form of value you can get out of it. Ideally, when you have these items as specified before, you mainly just right click whatever you can. Other than that, if he sees a teammate that is in danger, he tends to help them with his healing ward and by zoning the enemy out with his presence. After Yatoro gets to the point where he's strong enough to reach high ground, either with Aegis or if some of the enemy heroes are dead, he hits buildings with his healing ward behind him. He doesn't tend to dive the enemy, just focuses on buildings as he has insane amounts of chip damage, and with the healing ward behind him, it's really hard to do anything to him. That will be it for this video. I tried a different method of teaching in this one. I hope it was helpful. Let me know if you prefer it like this or going over every single thought process of a player is better for you. Please make sure to subscribe and like the video for more high quality content like this. Other than that, if you're interested in private coaching, you can join my Discord, linked in the description. Let me know in the comments if you have any feedback. Have a nice day and good luck with your games.